Hello, everybody. How are you? This is Jose. We are about to get started in 30 seconds. Let's have a quick sound check before we get started. As always, I would really appreciate if you could just type a quick hello on the chat box. Nice way to start. Plus, now I would know you heard me, so I know sound is good. Again, same routine as always. Please go ahead and do that so we can start on time. That's great. Thank you so much. 10 seconds to go. Almost there. Here we go. Perfect. Top of the hour, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Welcome, official welcome to the session. Jose Blasco here, April 3rd, 2022. This is a top session. And we are obviously going to be looking at a top. Christian, Joe, good to see you all, my friends. So before we get started, financial disclaimer on the upper left side of the screen. Please read it carefully. This is important information. As always point at the fact that it's not too long, isn't it? So I'm counting on you for you to read it completely. It is important information, so please be aware. Apart from that, what is a top session? If you're new to these sessions, well, a top session is a session where we learn more about using top as a platform, our predictive options planner, top. And of course, many times, while we want to get deep into the use of the software, many times we cannot do that without talking about trading. So we often mix trading lectures with platform time. And indeed, happy to talk about any questions that you guys may have. Okay. Christian, I see you are with us, by the way. So, and I owe you a video. You may have seen the email that our support team sent to you. So if you'd like me to discuss your concern or your need when it comes to preventing the issue you had, you'd like me to discuss it now, I'm happy to do it. If you prefer that I just record a video for you and email it for you, so I'm more than happy to do that, so you can have it kind of like archive and you can consult if you want in the future. Anything that is better for you, okay? Happy to adapt to you in all those ways, okay? Mark, how are you? Good to see you as well. Very good, everybody. So, hey, let's begin. Before we start, as always, I like to highlight our question page. So our question page is here, isn't it? So why is this page important? Well, because, for the ones of you who are new to our community and you may have questions about anything that we do, the use of the tools, etc., trading in general, anything really. So there are many questions here, and therefore many answers, and this is pretty rich content. And maybe you're gonna type something that you're looking for, and you actually get the answer. So this is a very good place where to start. And I said maybe because obviously there are infinite amount of questions that could be asked. So if you don't find the answer, then you would click on the green button, and then you would phrase your question. Ideally, document the question with graphics, such as screenshots of your charts and things like that. And then the question will be posted. Our support team will take care of it. And really, to be honest, not only the support team, anyone could collaborate on that answer. Myself, yourself, anyone who is part of the community could go ahead and input their comments. Obviously, our support team will always be there. Okay, so that's something important for you to know in case you didn't. And here we go. So now we are jumping inside top and ready to begin. Okay, so I see. Christian, you would like me to do that? Okay, so then let's go ahead and do that. Okay, let's go ahead and start the session talking about the specific issue and a specific way to approach what I would see as a valid solution. And by the way, I love it because you can give me your feedback as well. So I'll take it, and for sure, very appreciated as always, and always trying to improve and get better. So just. Any thought, any comment, any idea, again, anything, just tell me, okay? Cool. So, so the issue, so everyone understand, we're gonna deviate a little bit from the topic. We're supposed to talk about the matrix for a moment. We're gonna talk about the pages inside top and certain situations that may happen to you with the pages, and how can you anticipate this to happen? How can you fight it back in case it happens, etc., etc. Okay, so the case is coming from a case which is you as a trader have built a platform. In my case, it's relatively simple. If you look at the windows I have here, I have 3 windows. I got 2 charts and 1 matrix. Relatively simple. in my case, even though a chart has multiple tabs, right? Multiple tabs. And then I got multiple indicators. You may have preferences when it comes to colors and font size and things like that. And, probably when building your page, you spend time to adjust everything to your liking, and then you start using the platform and everything is good. But one day, well, what if that page file gets corrupted? Okay, that's what we're talking about here, which is a situation that happened. And again, I also want to bring a folder into the screen so everybody understands what I mean by the page file, and also everybody understands where it is located. So I am looking at my computer screen here. So bringing the file explorer here. So what I would like to point at here is the fact that I am working on this folder, which is the predictive options planner, in my case for QC. As you can see on the, sorry, not this one. As you can see on the top, I'm using QC. So inside your documents folder inside Windows, there is a folder called predictive options planner for QC, or options trading planner for TradeStation. And inside you have a collection of files. Okay, you have a collection of files. So the page I'm using right now, it's options with options. Okay, and that I know it's a page because the extension is DTP. Okay, where you could think of P as page. Okay, so this is your page file, and this is where, remember, we talked about this in a prior session. Everything you build inside top, it's in a page. So if you have 25 charts spread it across 10 monitors, and you save that as a page, when you close top and you reopen it, everything's going to go back to where it was. Okay, so it's all saved, locations, preferences, everything, every one of the components are saved in the page. Okay, so that's a quick reminder of something that we covered in the past. Another quick reminder of something important to know is the fact that there is a default file name, which is also ending with DTP, so that's also a page. Okay, default, and that is the one that is being overwritten every time when we close the platform. Okay, so notice that on the top of my top, it says Predictive Options Planner for QC, nothing else. Notice that if I open File, Open Page, and I open, say no, and I open Options with Options, which is my page file, and I open it. So notice how here on the top now, 1, 2, 3, there you go, it's loading. So now it says Options with Options. So it's showing the page file you have opened. Okay, it's showing you that. Now, if I close top and I reopen it, so I'm closing it, I'm going to reopen it right now on my other computer screen, but in the meantime, let me bring in the file explorer. So notice, again, we are in different places in the world, right? But on my side of the world is 11:07 p.m. Okay, so notice how the default page file has been overridden as I was exiting top. Notice how my options with option page was overwritten the last time on April 1st, which is a bunch of days ago, given the fact that today is April 3. So what happens if I load top, which I'm doing on my other computer screen? So you are about to see top show up on the screen in just a moment. So notice on the header, it says Predictive Options Planner for QC, nothing else. So everything is being loaded, but it doesn't say options with options. Okay, it says nothing. Why? Because the way top works is that by default, top loads the default page, which is the last one you have overridden with whatever you had on the screen when you close top this time. Okay, so first of all, can I get some confirmation from you all that this is understood, that when you exit, everything it's saved under default, and when you reopen, the default page is the one that is being opened? even if you don't click on save, that's what's going to happen. This is the behavior of the platform. This is how it's designed to avoid those, sometimes mistakes that we all make at times, where you close the platform, you forgot to save something, and you're like, oh my God, I spent 2 hours doing all these market analyses, I forgot to save. So this would not happen with Top, because the moment you exit, everything is saved in the default page. Okay, that's a great benefit. Okay, so good, perfect. So as this is understood, I got one more comment to make about those pages, those files, those page files. And then from there, I'll talk about good practices to be ready to fight cases when a page file gets corrupted. So that's my first point. Page files could get corrupted. It is not common. It is actually quite rare, but it could happen. And when that happens, typically it's because some sort of a very weird inconsistency showed up somewhere, which if that happens, in our experience, normally it happens because maybe there's been some sort of an internet drop, some sort of a lack of connectivity for a moment, and certain market data that was coming in was missing. Something weird happened normally from a market data point of view that has been missing. So then when the pages are being saved, there is something that is being saved that lacks consistency, and that may create an issue. So the issue is when you have a corrupted page file, the issue is that anything weird could happen. Typically, the platform freezes. Maybe when you change symbol, maybe when you change the amount of candles on a chart, it depends, because it's a very weird case, and when it happens, it's also gonna happen probably in a weird place of the page file. So it's very difficult to say exactly why and how and when. The question is to have a backup plan in case it happens, because there are certain things that we cannot control. While we could keep improving, and for sure we are on top of that and doing it better as we can every day. Well, we could keep improving by trying to anticipate those issues the moment we can identify them, replicate them, understand the nature of them, and then create a process internal of the platform to avoid those issues. But there are other cases. I mean, there are so many symbols, there are so many markets data, there are so many sources of information. Sometimes the market data inconsistencies are not coming from the market data vendor, they are coming from the exchange itself. So again, weird cases will happen. It's impossible to avoid all weird cases. And so when a weird case of that nature happens, and that may create the page file. So if that page file is corrupted, then all sort of weird cases could happen on your end, right? So then, in other words, let's say you are using Top and everything is smooth, and let's say next week on Tuesday, you start realizing, oh, I feel very slow, or every time I change symbol, now it froze, and this never happened before. Things like that. When things of that sort happen, this is a very clear flag, a very clear sign that probably somewhere on the page file something got corrupted. Okay, so then the only way to fix it, since I said it's very, very difficult to replicate and to find, and believe me, we try very hard. Since it's very difficult to find in some cases, so the only way to fix it, if we don't find it, it's to go ahead and recreate the page. But then the problem of recreating the page is that all that time that you spend on the first time ever to create everything and put everything in its place, to recreate it, you have to spend all that time again, and that's not a pleasant experience. Okay, so I totally understand that. I get it 100%. So the idea is to be prepared. Not that this is something that we should expect to happen often, but to have a backup plan, to have a plan B in case that happens, which is, how can we be prepared in case this happens, so we can very quickly, be back with a fresh page that is not corrupted and everything is fine. Okay, and so basically the idea is, you create your page. Okay, so let me do that. So let's say that you are starting to use Top for the first time in your life, or you got a corrupted page and now you have to rebuild it. So you would come here, new page. Okay, you want to make sure you start with a fresh page. Okay, so that way everything is clear. But now let's say maybe you want to have X amount of charts, but let's say that by default, you like to use, for example, the dark background instead of light. So the way I have it at the moment is that by default, when I load a chart, is white. But let's say that what you want to have on that new page that you're building, you want it to have it dark background. On top of that, let's say you need to build 25 charts. So now you will need to open 25 charts, right? And now manually you will need to go to all of them and right click, go to format, and then change all those characteristics, the size of the font, the color of the background. This is a real pain, right? It's a real pain. So the best practice to rebuild the page would be to, number one, go ahead, okay, and get one chart or one element, okay? And that one, of course, at least once, you're going to have to recreate it the way you want. So let's say, for example, you want it to be, let's go to format, you want it to be, instead of white background, you want it to be black background, okay? And maybe you also want to show a grid, which I don't have, okay? And let's say you click OK, and you're like, okay, yes, this is what I want. Or you know what, with the grid and the black background, this gradient is not something that I appreciate, so I don't want any gradient. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, wait a minute. I didn't do this right. Chart gradient, not scale, chart gradient. Click OK, and now you have the black background, you have the grid. Just out of simplicity, let's say this is what you want. Okay, and you spend time to adjust this the way you want. So then what you want to do is to right click and set this as your default template. Okay, so you set this as your default template as a chart. So now when you open 25 additional charts, all of them come like this. Okay, this it's a method by which you will be able to recreate your page faster. Okay, again, the ultimate goal is to have a backup plan where you don't have to recreate your page, which I'm going there. But in the process of recreating your page, remember some of the elements inside top, they have this option where you can set templates. Not every element. Okay, not every element. For example, you go to a quote. Okay, so you could set templates. Okay, your preferences, for example, you go to format, you have preferences when it comes to colors, font size. So this you can set it, and then once you set it, you come back here and you set it as your default template, or you can even save it with another name. So it's not going to be the default, but you can easily load that template as well, and recover those specific formats that you want to use. How are you, Jeff? Good to see you, my friend. So keep that in mind. Not all components of top have that, okay? So for example, if you load an option chain, okay, and you right click, there is no option to do format and save templates because the option chain is what it is. The only option you get there is generic for the whole platform, which that you would already have it set, which is under settings. You are either using a dark theme or a light theme, and this, of course, will have an impact on how this is going to look, okay? But again, that would not be a problem if your page file is corrupted, because again, this has to do with platform settings. No matter if the file is corrupted or not, those colors and so on would already be in place. Okay, so I'm just saying certain tools, such as the quote window, the chart, and a few more, they have the option to right-click, set a format, save as a default or save as a template, and then in order to recreate your complex page and setup of charts across multiple monitors and so on, that would be very helpful. Does this apply to tabs? Yes. So once you have created a template and you add new tabs, notice how the new tabs will be created using the same template. Okay, so this again is going to save you a lot of time. Again, and this to me looks really ugly, and I cannot do it on purpose, so it's very visual. So the black background with a very thick grid, it's kind of painful to my eyes. I really dislike it. But anyway, I guess you can see how every time I click on the plus sign, a new tab shows up, and the new settings are there. So the moment you have set up that first chart ever, or for example, the quote window or other of the tools, you have set up it. You have it set up the way you want with your very specific preferences. So then you can go ahead and recreate that particular page file faster and better. By the way, if your page file is corrupted, okay, so let's say, let me open my page file. Okay, I'm not going to save this. Okay, let me open options with options. And let's say the page file I am loading at the moment, okay, let's say this page file, let's say it's corrupted. It loads, but it's corrupted, meaning that maybe, 20 minutes into the session, if I type a specific symbol, something happened, it crashes. Okay, so then it's corrupted, but at least I could load it. Well, if you could load it, you can go ahead and come here and make this your template. Okay, you make this type of chart your template. Okay, so now it's going to be white background, UFOs, wave. All of this is going to be as part of my default, because indicators and everything else is going to also be remembered. So now notice, if I go back to new page, and now I create a chart, look at that. White background, UFOs, Elliott wave. So in other words, the moment you create it as a default, even though now I'm creating a fresh template, okay? So now it's those defaults are transferred, and that there is no risk of corruption doing that. So now you can create a fresh page quickly by recovering the settings of some of the elements you had on the corrupted page, and recreate those elements fresh, but by inheriting such settings, which will save you time in the recreation. Again, I'm mentioning this to save you time in case this ever happens. At the same time, I need to talk about these good practices, this backup plan, if you wish. So if this happens, you don't have to recreate the page. Okay, so I'm just now going for the worst case, which is you have to recreate the page. Okay, now second question is, how do you avoid having to recreate the page? Let me read your questions on the chat box first, and then I'm coming for that. Christian, does it apply to tabs? Yes, correct, it does. And if you have different tabs that have different indicators, so what you would do is, so for example, this one is with Elliott wave, okay? And so I could go ahead and save that with a name, which is, let's say, UFOs plus Elliott wave. So you could do that. By the way, notice how the templates are saved. And they are also saved under Traditive Options Planner, okay? For QC in my case, okay? So you could actually also back up those files. So if you ever need to reinstall a top in a different computer, you can actually get those files in that new computer, and next thing you know, at the speed of the light, you can actually open those templates. So here I am saving a template, which is UFO plus Elliott waves, okay? And maybe I add also, a white background, okay? However you want to phrase it that help you understand what the template is about. Let's say the next template is a template that you would like to have where you don't have Elliott waves, but you have, say, a Bollinger Band. Okay, so you can get this, and then you right click, template, save. Okay, and that you would call it, UFO plus Bollinger Band, white background, save. Okay, I didn't click save. Now save. So now, again, let's say you are building a new, right? So you are building this one, and let's say you need two tabs. One tab you need it with the Elliott wave, which you already have it, but let's pretend you don't. So you would come to template, load, UFO plus Elliott wave, and then the next tab you need it with the Bollinger Band. So you right click, template, load, and you would select UFO plus Bollinger Bands, and now you have it. And this could be, in this case, is two studies, UFOs and Bollinger Bands, but it could be a million of various characteristics, including studies and everything else that you could think of. And the moment you use those templates, very quickly you've been able to rebuild it. So this is a good backup plan to have in place for each of the elements on top, which are customizable, such as a chart. And doing that would help you and speed up the process of rebuilding the page. Okay, so let me keep reading the chat box. It would be hugely helpful to be able to rename the tabs so I know what they contain beyond time frame. I understand. Yes. At this moment in time, this is a feature that is not possible. And to be honest, changing that would be a tough one because we have some automation built in the naming, symbol, time frame, and so on. So changing that and allowing for manual input would imply certain changes. But Christian, as I always do, and this applies to everyone, of course, I'm making a note of this for sure. Okay, this is a great suggestion. I can see the benefit of it. So yeah, indeed, I get you, my friend. Okay. So anyway, so now beyond rebuilding the page, okay, I think that you are with me that if you ever have to rebuild a page and it's a big one, it's a pain. No matter what, it's a pain. I get you. Is what it is. Is what it is. Done. But again, with that template functionality, to be honest, it's much less of a pain that if you had to do the whole thing manually. And by the way, sometimes you may not get the page file corrupted, but hey guys, this happens to everyone, isn't it? Sometimes by mistake you click on the X, the tab is gone. You just wanted to click on the tab, next thing you know, you clicked on the X and the tab is gone. So what are you gonna do? Well, if you have to put it back, but now you have to rebuild it, it's also pain. It's a minor pain, but it's still a pain. So again, having those templates in place, it's indeed, from a good practice point of view, something that to me, I mean, as you can see, I have a list of templates there, so I do, and I would certainly recommend you guys to do it too. Okay. Now, the element here, which is probably most important. So, how can you do it to not to have to rebuild the page? Well, it's very simple. So first, there was that one day, the very beginning of of you using top, where you build the page, right? Or you bought a new computer, or you started trading a new market, whatever, and you build the page. Okay, and let's say the page, in this case, I'm just gonna make it very simple, is made of 4 charts. Okay, so this is your page, and now you save it. Okay, and this is the first time ever in the life of this page that you save it. Okay, test page. Okay, and now you save it, and you would say, okay, so now let's start trading. And now let's say something happened and the page gets corrupted. So then it's a problem, because you need to rebuild the page, because you are working on the original file, which is test page, and it got corrupted. So then you have okay, so what's the good practice? Well, the good practice is the moment you created a test page, you close the platform. Okay, so you have the test page file that has been created, that is there, which is brand new at 11:26 p.m. my time. You also have the default page, which contains the same information created at 11:26 p.m. My time. So what would you do? You would take that test page, copy paste, and now you have created a copy of it. Okay, and you can rename it, leave it as copy, or rename it, or a test page backup. That's going to be your preference on how you like to manage files on your computer. But basically, that page is there, and you don't touch it. You just leave it there. Okay, and now every time you trade, you are working either on the test page, or obviously every time you close, it's going to be saved on default. So it's either you're working on the default page or you're working on the test page if you are switching from page to page. Okay, and if one day that page gets to get corrupted, right? So the practice would be very simple. You delete the corrupted page. You go find the backup page, which is the same but has never used, only the day of its creation, and therefore is not corrupted. And you can now copy paste. So you have copy of the backup, and what you do now is that you remove everything on the naming that you don't need, which is all of that. So you now name it test page, and then you go back to top and you open that file, and the whole page will be there available, and you didn't have to recreate anything. I mean, of course, if there were some drawings on the chart, some things like that, yes, that would be lost. But the whole structure, okay, I'll add one more note here. If you did that and you had some drawings, some writings on the charts, that would be lost. But the whole structure of the page, that wouldn't be lost. Okay. Now you want to take it to the next level. If your page is very complex and you are a very active trader, you do many things every day. Let's say you document a lot of things on the chart and so on. Then you gotta treat the page files, like if it was a very sensitive Word document, if you wish, right? So then what I would do is, and that would be a very good thing to do to avoid issues, but also for tracking, for review, or things like that. So once a day, when the day is over, once a week, if you are less active at the end of the week, etc., you would take your test page file, and again, you would copy paste, and then you would rename it. Okay, and that would be, for example, uh, 2022. And this is what I do for myself, and I pick the week number. So let's say it's the third week of the year, so 2022 week 3, right? So because I start with the year, right, and then the week. So let's say I do this multiple times. Okay, so I have week 1, week 2, week 3. Okay, so bear with me, guys. I'm just doing something very simple, but um, again, it's a good practice, it's a good idea. And if you haven't thought about it, maybe you have, but if you haven't thought about it, so this could be a good one. So now you have that same page file. And by the way, look at the size, 9 KB. It's very small. Okay, so this doesn't use space on your computer. So it's a good practice. So now, next thing you know, you're basically saving the end of the first week of 2022. What is it that you had? The second week of 2022, the third week of 2022. And basically during those weeks, you are working, during the week, you're working with the test page. And when the week is over, you just create one file that stays there forever. So if that test page gets ever corrupted, then you can recover it from the backup file, or you can recover it from the prior week, which is a backup file with the information up to the last week, which is the last time you were using the page and you didn't have signs of corruption. So now, would you still lose some drawings, writings? Yes, of course, but only until whatever date you save that file. So again, it's just like if you have a Word document, right, and you forgot to save, or you save, so you kept the information until the moment that you saved. So that could be a good practice, okay, and certainly I recommend to do something like that, especially if your page is quite complex. If your page is simple, like the one I use for the sessions when we get together here, which of course when I share screen, I can only share one screen at a time, isn't it? So then it's just a page with 2 charts and a matrix. So recreating these really takes extremely little time. So I don't make it difficult for myself, but for sure, for other setups I have and so on, I do that. Okay, I have my backup file. I have I save files every week as well. So that way, if anything happens, I always can come back. And even if nothing happens, I can always go back and see what is it that I had on the screen at the end of that week, and my writings at the end of that week, and for review process, if you wish, it's a healthy thing to do. Okay. The positions files is the same thing. Okay, the positions files, it's a file which is found right here, which is myposition.def. DEF. Okay. Now, with the positions file, you cannot open and close. Okay. You cannot come here to positions, and now here you have an open and close button, and you can open different my positions files. That does not exist. Okay. So the my positions, you can only have one. You can have as many pages as you want, but you can only have one my positions file. But at the same time, you can operate in the same way. So for example, let me make a copy of this. Okay? And once a week, for example, assuming that, let's say you're a swing trader, something like that. So once a week, you will do this. Okay. So now you have my positions.def, and then you have my positions 2022 week first, right? So let's say for whatever reason you have an issue with the positions file, which that would be very, very strange, okay? Even stranger than the page files, okay? But if, I would even say that if you ever got a problem with the my positions file, probably you also have a problem with the page, because it would probably mean that something very strange happened with the data feed. And again, this is beyond our control. Sometimes it could even come from the exchange itself. So that's unfortunate, but that's what it is. Okay. So if that file was to be corrupted, okay, then what you could do, okay, is you could delete it, and then you can rename your my positions file, okay, by gathering the prior one you had, and you're fine. Okay, you're fine. It's gonna work. Okay. You can also delete the file altogether, close the platform, open the platform, and the platform will create a file for you, but it's going to be empty, right? So if you want the my positions file, you want the my positions window to be with your positions, okay? So then you will want to do something like that, so that information is also kind of like backed up, okay? Very good. Understand the backup copies. How about top creates those all the time, like Word does? That's another great suggestion, Christian. That's another great suggestion. Indeed, it's something for consideration. Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's it's everything got pros and cons, and I'm kind of showing a serious face and a smile at the same time, depending on where you look at me, because we had so many conversations with the developers and putting this tool in place and everything else, and it's like almost every decision on how you want to approach things have pros and cons. Like for some traders, doing that would be very beneficial. Other traders, we get totally confused with so many page files or my position files, and so again, it's difficult to draw the line on the sand to where the best place is. But anyway, certainly I understand the suggestion, the concern, where you're going. You make a lot of sense to me. So yeah, all of those are conversations that we'll certainly have internally, and yeah, if changes take place, for sure you will be informed. Okay. Mark, how do you delete a tab on the positions page? Yes. So on the positions page, actually, this is the quote window. It's actually the same thing, the quote window on the positions page on how to delete. Okay. So for example, here I have a portfolio one. Let's say I got portfolio two. Okay, whatever. So you want to get rid of this one. So inside this page anywhere, you right click and you select delete portfolio. The tabs are not called tabs within the nomenclature that we use on the platform. Again, you see, this is the thing that happens when you try to be very intuitive. Sometimes you are not intuitive, meaning many other platforms call tabs. So in this case, the tabs represent portfolios, so we're calling them portfolios, which in a way is more intuitive, but at the same time is less intuitive because other platforms call tabs. So yeah, it's delicate. It's fun. Christian, I know you are into technology as well, so I'm sure you understand my pain here on the pros and the cons of the decisions that you take when you're developing a product. But anyway, so you will simply select delete portfolio, and again, you have portfolio 2, right? So if I click delete portfolio, you will see how portfolio 2 went away. Okay, so that's it. Very simple. Cool. Very good. Perfect. All clear. Okay, so let's go back to the matrix. Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to answer this question. The question was brought in by Christian, but to be honest, it's very relevant. I was going to make a video for you, Christian, but thank you for preferring that I answer the question here, and also you guys for giving also the opportunity that I answer here, because it's probably something that has happened or is happening or will happen to some of you. So talking about good practices should also be, and talking about suggestions and improvements. Maybe sometimes when we do top sessions, we should be talking about how to use top, which is what we do most of the time. But maybe we should also talk about good practices, okay? Because some of us have been using the platform for a long time, and we've faced some issues that others that you've been using the platform for less time haven't faced, and good practices may be a good conversation to have from time to time. Christian, thanks for that, my friend. Yes, 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 yes. Cool. Very good. Anyway, so let's go back to the matrix, okay, which is what the topic for today is, okay? And let's keep progressing with the matrix and take it to the next level, okay? Better BC was interactive. I'm not sure I follow you with that acronym BC. Sorry for that. Maybe just because it's 11:38 p.m. my time. If you could clarify this for me, that would be great. So I'm going to make my matrix link to the yellow color. I'm going to float it, okay? Because also I want to bring in a chart. So then we get to visualize the roles of the matrix, okay? And I want to make that chart to be yellow. So then that way, I'll be switching back and forth between matrix and chart, and because it's linked with the yellow color, we can see the results, okay? So first of all, speed of the light. What do we know about the matrix? Okay, well, what we know about the matrix is uh, those parameters here, which are very basic parameters. We talked about this in prior sessions. And also all the additional filters that are in the bottom part, all of this has been covered too. So the one thing that we don't know of the matrix are the scans, which is what we need to discuss. But also we never talked about the save result feature. And it's very intuitive as well. But talking about intuitive sometimes is not. There is something very interesting, very useful on the save result functionality. So I'm going to start from here. I'm going to talk about how to save the results and reutilize those results that are saved. And then I'll get into the scans, okay? Because the session was interrupted. Got you now, Christian. Totally understood. Thank you for that. So anyway, so let's pretend you've done some filtering. I'm just gonna, make up anything here. Strong up, whatever, auto climate, whatever. Let's see what we got. Hopefully we get something. Okay, so we got a list. Okay, let me try to make that list to be shorter. So I want to say, okay, stocks from 50 to 100. So okay, let's make the list to be from 50 to 70. Here we go. So I got a list. In this case, is not long. Okay, and the reason why I wanted to not to be too long, it's visual. When I explain to you the results, it's visuals because it fits on the screen. The reality is that, if the list is very long, probably it's going to be even better because you're going to see me not only saving the results for the sake of saving, but you're going to see me save the results for the sake of reutilizing results from a prior scan into a new scan. Okay, so it's kind of like nesting scans inside of scans. But again, to be able to be visual, I prefer to work with a short list like I just accomplished. So that way you see my point, okay? So let's say you have performed a scan, okay? And you want to reutilize those results, let's say, for example, during the whole week. So let's say, for example, the parameters that you have scanned for to you as a trader based on your trading plan are going to be valid for the whole week. And while you trade every day, you only want to deal with those symbols that you then want to filter further with other parameters. Okay, so again, example number one, you get those symbols once a week and you want to reutilize them every day of the week with additional filtering conditions. Okay, or another case could be, instead of that, maybe you are using scan 1, scan 2. Just let me try to find something something like that. Let me see if we still got, okay, see, correct. So let's say you got this, so you got scan 1, scan 2, you get those results. But then you want to add scan 3, scan 4, but there is no space for scan 3 and scan 4. So what can you do? How can you save those results and then reutilize those results in another fresh scan where the parameters could be totally different now? Okay, how can you do that? Well, the idea would be to save the results and then plug in those results as a scan list so you can rescan only those results. Okay, now when creating a scan list, you can do it very manually by creating a list file, right? And if you create a list file, that would save a file on your computer, and then you can come here manually and import the file like you have seen me do many times when I do the penny increment options. That's a list file, okay? And when you do that, so now those symbols will appear here because they were saved on the computer file. But that's very tedious. That's very tedious, especially if you want to do that like every day, where you want to maybe scan for, let's say, 5 different conditions. So you need to create a scan with condition 1 and 2, save the file, then load the file, go for condition 3 and 4, which are scan 1 and 2 second time, then save the file, and then reload the file and run condition number 5, which is scan 1 again. So that would be very tedious if every time you need to go on your file explorer, type a file name. That's tedious. So to avoid the tediousness that I just represented here, so there is an option inside save results, which is save directly into the scan list, which is right here. What happens if I select this and then I click save? Here we go. All those symbols that I had below are automatically saved for me here. So now I can go ahead and change the conditions of my filtering. I'm just gonna do, I don't know, this, for example, and maybe none. And when I do that and I scan, okay, only those symbols are taken into consideration. And by the way, it seems that the condition I selected, it's valid. I mean, let's do this. Let's change the price, for example, from 50 to 60, right? So now notice how I got less symbols, okay? So, but the results are coming from utilizing 5 symbols only. The 5 symbols I got as a result of the first scan are then utilized on the second scan, where I added a lowest continuous implied volatility on the call and a different price condition. Okay, so I ended up with a shorter list. Okay, but basically it's kind of like I'm nesting scans inside of scans, and I don't need to save files on my hard drive and name files and go open files, and it's simply done by clicking save the results of whatever you have on the scan list, and that's going to push it here. So let's say now if I save it again, notice I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I save it again, sorry, clear the list and save it again, now the result is 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I got 4, and now let's say, for example, I'm going to add another condition that has to do with, I don't know, momentum scans, top percent gainers since the open. So now I'm going to get 1 result, okay, which is basically I did scan 1 and 2, and I took those 5 results, scanned them again, I ended up with 4 results, and then scanned them again, and I ended up with 1 result. So again, this is something that is very convenient if you need to use more scans than 2, which are the available drop-down menus, to not to make this screen to be too tedious. It's already quite loaded with fields and cells and drop-down menus. If we were to add 10 scans, it would be way too busy. And even if we added 10, maybe you need 12. So instead, the idea is to be using the scan list result and just save. And again, remember, when you save, this is going to push it on this list. Okay, so you clear it first. And now if I save, that last result is going to be saved here. So whatever you do next is going to be applied to that one symbol only. Okay. Please confirm to me that you are with me. Everybody, confirm on the chat box that all of this was well understood, because now I'm going to show you a few additional important differences. Okay, I'm just waiting for your responses. If it's just a quick okay, just type quick okay, that's fine. But again, that's important for me to know. Okay, and I know that always there is some video lag with the streaming that we do and so on. So I'm just gonna wait. Okay, with you. Perfect, wonderful. Thank you, Joe. Very nice. Now, what are the other choices you have? Well, the other choices is to save to a list file. Okay, if you save to a list file and you click save, okay, this is happening on my other computer screen, so I'm going to bring it here. Basically, what it did is it created a notepad file with the symbols in here. Okay, but the formatting of this file internally is such where if I save it, okay, and I save it in the right place where the penny increment options are, okay, and I save it as a test list. So then close the notepad. So then I can import my test list, which I just saved at 11:48 p.m. my time. And if I load it, here we go. The symbols are here. Okay. So this is what I was saying earlier. This is kind of like the scan list, but instead of, you don't need to go and name the file. If you use to list file, then you are actually saving a file hard drive, and you have to save it. So again, is this good or bad? Well, it depends on the application. For example, for me, when I use the penny increment options list, which is a list I use in a regular basis and I change very, very seldomly. So it's very convenient to have that saved on the hard drive. So I don't need to do anything in here to create the list. The list is already in my hard drive. I just import it and that's it. So again, the example I gave you earlier, where maybe you do some sort of filtering at the beginning of the week or over the weekend, and you just want to work on those stocks during the week. So again, that's another good example where saving the results to a list file could be very convenient for that type of application. Okay. But there are other applications, okay? Other applications such as saving it to a text file. So a text file looks the same, to be honest, okay? If I save it to a text file, so it looks like that. It's a notepad with the symbols in it. So it looks the same, but it's not exactly the same because the formatting of this file it's just text, it's pure text. So basically, this is something that you do if in case you want to have it somewhere. So maybe you are trading, you have the list, and you're like, okay, so I will look at those, after 2 p.m. And you want to make a note for yourself or something like that. So maybe handy to have this on a text format so you can then reutilize it in whatever way you want. That's don't save. This is what saving to a text file does, okay, which is really not magic at all, but it's useful in certain contexts. And then the final case is save to a spreadsheet, where if you do that and you click save, and this is happening on my other computer screen, so I'm going to bring it here in a moment as well. Here we go. So if I bring it here, so notice how it puts the symbols automatically on a spreadsheet. So it actually opens the spreadsheet and plugs the symbols there for you automatically. So it's quite handy. Again, if you are documenting, logging, preparing, maybe you get symbols over the weekend, you put them on a spreadsheet, then you run some calculations of something, whatever that is, it could be very useful in many ways. Okay. Now, the last comment I'm going to make here concerning the save results is the fact that, apart from to scan list, again, one last time, when you click save, it doesn't do anything with files on your hard drive. It's just putting the symbols here. Okay. Apart from that one, the other three, spreadsheet, text, and list, every time you select one, for example, spreadsheet, and you click save, what's going to happen is that top is going to be looking at the file associations you have on your computer, and it's going to bring in whatever you have associated with. For example, with spreadsheets, if your association is not Microsoft Excel, let's say you use some open source spreadsheet or something like that, Open Office, for example. So then it's going to open Open Office. It's not going to open Microsoft Excel. It's whatever spreadsheet software you have on your computer, which is associated with top. That's what is going to be open. There may be cases where you have no association. So you may try to open a text file or even the list file, and you don't have an association. So then Windows will prompt with a pop-up window. It will be like, you want associated to what? Well, so that list file and text file are text. So I would say select the Windows Notepad, unless you prefer to use a different text tool. Maybe you prefer to use WordPad, or maybe you use some of those most advanced text editors that are not like Microsoft Word. They're just for text, typically for programmers or people like that use some advanced text editors. But I would say for this application, probably the Notepad, it's the ideal one. So if it's not associated, you will have this pop-up window, select Notepad, follow the steps, and then everything will run smooth as I just showed you on my machine. Okay, so again, super simple, at the same time very important. So I took a little bit of my time here, as I often do, to explain this so it's well understood. Okay. List file is a top format, but for you to visualize it, you will need to use the Notepad. Okay. So if you were to let's say this is an interesting question. Okay, and it brings me to say something I was not thinking to mention, but to be honest, it's important. So if you selected save to list file, and let's say your list file it's not associated to anything. Okay. Let me try to create that situation. Okay, let me try to see if I can do that quickly. I'm improvising here, so bear with me a moment. So if I look for, I'm working on my other computer screen. Let me do something. Look at my app associations. Not here. 1 second, guys. Okay, if I have to abort, I will tell you. Here, default apps. File tabs. Okay, I think I found it. So I'm looking at, I use Windows 11 on my machine. This is under settings. Okay, so I got into the settings section where, you can see under apps, you can see all my file associations. Okay, so this is a place where normally you don't need to go. Okay, but my point is, what if I look for the LST type of files? Okay, dot LST. Okay, so my .lst type of files are currently associated with Notepad, as you can see. Okay, what if they were not associated? Well, you may be prompted to associate these with top. Let's do it. Let's say you didn't know, and next thing you know, you associate that with top. Okay, and this normally when you install top, it all should be fine. But let's say you did that because it was not associated. Okay, so now what happens? If I try to save those results to a list file, and you click save, nothing's happening. And the reason why nothing's happening is because basically doing that, the instruction that top is receiving is open whatever program is used to create the list file, which is top. So top is trying to use top. Top is trying to open top to edit a file. And top is not a file editor. It's not a text editor. So that would not work. And if you did that, now you would be like, so what's happening? I cannot do it. No. So then if you did something like that, so you will need to come here, okay, to change your file association under apps, okay? And basically under more apps, I would suggest to use the Notepad or WordPad or something like that, some text editor that allows you to see the file. So now my LST files, which are the lists, they are associated with Notepad. So if I now come in here and I click save, so now the notepad has been opened and I got my symbols here, which was the goal. Okay. So hopefully this is understood. This is a bit more technical. Again, to avoid any issue, when you open a spreadsheet, is spreadsheet format, so associate to your spreadsheet, typically Microsoft Excel or whatever spreadsheet you use. If you use text file or list file, even though they are different formats, they are based on text. Therefore, associate those two to Notepad or any other text editor you may have on your computer. Okay, but don't associate any to top, because then you're trying to have top open top, and top cannot open top to read text because top is not a text editor, it's a trading platform, and therefore it's not the function. Okay, so it will not do anything, as you have seen just happened to me. Okay, well, I never thought I was going to spend so much time talking about the save results function, but to be honest, this is a critical one. This I left it for the last when we talked about this screen here, because really it will have, there are many cases where you do all the work of filtering stuff, and next thing you know, especially the first option, the scan list, it's very convenient to push your symbols in here, so then you can refilter or push them to a list file so you can reutilize them, for example, during the week, during the month, things like that. Okay, that's all. Okay, that's all. We talked about in the past, I'll just mention it as a reminder. So we talked about the fact that you could certainly create those files manually, right? So you could go into your hard drive. Did I close it? No, I didn't. So this is your import lists inside your predictive file. You have a text list here, right? So you can indeed open with Notepad or other editors, and if when you open it, so here it is, and you can certainly edit it. So for example, let's say that you are using some external surveys, maybe to do fundamental analysis, okay? And you have a list of stocks, or maybe like I do myself with a penny increment options list, you use an external service. In my case, that was a TOS, and with TOS, I created the penny increment options list and I put it there. So you can also create your files and then call them from inside top. It doesn't need to be a scan list created with top to be used within top. It could be created outside of top manually, and then you can still call it from here, like I do again one last time with the penny increment options list that you have seen me use in the live sessions a million times. Okay. Okay, so guys, we just reached the top of the hour, so I guess that we'll get with the scans and everything else um, next session. I was actually planning to do it today. I had it all prepared, but in the end, we had a very rich and very interesting conversation today. So I'm happy about it, even though I am surprised I used so much time with a save feature. I don't know how I did that. Um, I hope you don't mind. But anyway, any final question, any comment, or suggestions, as always, feel free to type on the chat box, or if you just want to say goodbye, this is the time where I would say goodbye, unless I read any question. I'm happy to stay a little longer to answer. So do you save the TOS penny list as a text file or Excel? Text file. Okay, text file, but then you rename the extension to LST. Okay, you rename the extension to LST. So it's text format, okay, but the extension is .lst for list. And another way to make sure you don't mess up with the extensions, okay, if you don't want to go back to like old school MS DOS type of changing extensions, okay, if you don't want to do it this way, you can always use the penny increment file that I use, that most of you, probably all of you, have received or have, or if not, email us and we'll send it. And you use that file and you change the name, and then you open that file, and then you change the content, and then you save it, because that file is already a .lst file, so you can just use that one as a template. Christian, a pleasure, and I'm really sorry that you need to put time now on rebuilding the. And I know you are very, very detailed, and I mean, I could imagine all the work that you put on the page. So I'm very sorry this is happening. Obviously, it's not a pleasant experience, but in the end, it's something that while we'll keep working on improving. When data comes into top, we process a lot of that data. There are plenty of filtering conditions and things that we do avoid many issues that would happen, because believe it or not, those market vendors, no matter if it's QC or if it's traditional, no matter what, the amount of corrupted data that comes, it's crazy. So we do a lot of things, and we'll keep improving all those filtering processes and so on. But there are times where there are things that are totally unexpected, cannot be predicted, are not standard. There's a one-time thing that happened. And again, sometimes it's originated from the exchange itself. So even the market vendor cannot even be blamed, because they have the same issue as us. They also format and provide the market data in a format that is in theory standardized. But then, if something crazy happened from the exchange side, then, it creates a cascade effect. And that could be the case. So it's very rare, but it happens. So this good practice, was a great conversation to have, and I thank you very much for that, and also for your patience, and also you've been working with us, with the support team, sending your files and being patient to wait for our answers. We try to replicate your issue, and you've been very patiently waiting and working with us very, very proactively and very positively. So I want to thank you very much for that too, because it helps us and it helps everyone that is using Top. So thank you for that, Christian. TOS update the file regularly. Yes, TOS updates the file regularly, but it doesn't happen too often. Okay, so, I mean, new stocks that have new penny increment options there, or stocks that didn't have penny increment options and suddenly now they have options that trade in pennies. That happens from time to time. But I personally don't even look at updates. Unless it's every 6 months or something like that. I mean that's at least my experience for years, that file has indeed been updated, but not that often. Okay, the one file that TOS updates quite often is the one with the weekly expiration options. That one is one that I would say almost every week got changes. But the one with the penny increment, at least unless it's changed in the last year or two, which I got quite relaxed about the file, because the file is long enough and plenty of stocks in there. So my experience is that it is not updated too often. Cool, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining me again. This is Sunday, so this is a special day. I'm sure many of you are watching this recorded, but for the ones of you live, special thank you as well. It makes a big difference that I'm not delivering this session by myself, but you guys are here with me. So Shows your commitment, your passion. I really appreciate that. I love it, but I wouldn't love it as much if you guys were not here. So thank you very much for that, and see you in the next one. See you during the weekdays as well, and keep up with the good work. See you, everybody. Take care. Thanks again. Bye bye.